Welcome back to the channel. I am Joe. This week's Wednesday night video, a little bonus video, is going to be about roasting coffee beans. Stay tuned. Yes, this video is extremely out of the norm for me. Usually we've got some kind of 4x4 in the garage doing some inexpensive mods or fixing something, doing some off-road stuff, but this week we are going to be talking about coffee. I love coffee. Mrs. HSW loves coffee. And so I started roasting coffee beans. It's the most random thing ever. I collect hobbies. So that's kind of how that started. Let's go ahead and just jump right into it. I am not a professional. If you're like a professional or a roaster or a coffee snob or somebody, you're probably going to be put off by some of the stuff in this video. All I know is I've been doing it for a few months now. We have stopped buying store-bought coffee because it tastes awful to us. We love it. Everyone I've given it to is either lying to me or actually does really like it. So there's that. Anyway, we start with some raw coffee beans. At the moment, I've been buying them off Amazon. Yes, I know it. I've been doing more research into coffee beans. I tried to find some with good reviews. Seemed like they were sourced, single source, organic, stuff like that seemed like it makes sense on what would be a good coffee bean. So I've got a couple types that I've used. If I think of it, I'll link them down below for you guys. I've had good luck with them. And yeah, I don't really know how to film this. It's a little bit more difficult logistically to film doing this than one might think. First off, let's talk about some of the hardware. All right, let's start with the most obvious thing, the actual roasting. Where is the heat coming from? I've started out with a few different methods before I ended up where I'm at. First thing we tried was just a air convection popcorn popper. What you're doing to coffee beans is not terribly unlike how you would make popcorn. There's heat, there's convection. The motion in one of those, the swirling of the beans, does help with the chaff. And theoretically, it helps with more even cooking. I, for one, did not like that method. It was fast and hot, and it was very hard to determine when the beans were cracking, because yes, they will actually split open, crack, and make a noise, kind of like popcorn. You can't do very much at once, and I just was not a fan of that. So I moved on to a flat platter popcorn maker. Kind of has like a stir thing. You put a plastic cover over it, and that was better, but it did not get as hot as I would like. You should, if you Google it, roasting coffee should be 400 to 500 degrees, closer to 500 really. And I have a little infrared thermometer laser pointer thing, and it just was not getting hot enough. So I ended up just cooking the beans. It took so long to cook them, to roast them, that it was drying them out. Not good. I moved on to basically the same exact thing, but it is for, quote, roasting coffee. So a little bit higher temperatures. It's $100 for a low end one of those. And did not really like that either. So I took to Google and YouTube, which I hadn't done actually because I kind of wanted to learn about it organically. I didn't want to have like preconceived notions going into it. So I came across just roasting coffee beans on a cookie sheet in your oven. Really good simple video I saw about doing that. This is a perforated, it's got holes in it, tons of tiny little holes in it, half sheet, cookie sheet, and I'm using my regular oven. That being said, I have a extra oven in my garage, like some people would have an extra refrigerator in their garage. Yes, I have that. I really would not recommend doing this in your house, at least not as much as I've been doing it on a regular basis. They smoke a lot. The smell is not as bad as burnt popcorn, but it's kind of similar. But the beans give off like an oil, and it gets trapped in like your wood cabinets and stuff, and you will smell it for a couple weeks to come, and it kind of sticks to everything. I'll show you that later. So I've been in my garage roasting at 470, turned the oven on, let it get good and hot, 15 minutes, really get heat soaked in there. 8 ounces of coffee beans on one of these half sheet perforated pans from Amazon. I think it's like $15. And I've been, putting them on like 3/4 away from the top rack. But put that pan down. I've also been smoking the beans. Hear me out. When this kind of started out, basically we started joking, me and Mrs. HSW started joking about retirement, and I think Christmas tree farms came up, and then that transformed into a mountain bike shop and a brewery, and then landed on roasting coffee. I'm pretty sure we were on a road trip. So I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. I just like black coffee. Not to say I don't like other forms and flavors of coffee. I just like a good cup of black coffee. I'm not one for like picking out nutty flavors and it's got notes of chocolate or like fruit, hints of fruit and stuff like that. I can greatly appreciate that, but I just like good black cup of coffee. Not bitter, not too strong, not too weak. And I just want it to taste like a good cup of coffee on a cool morning at the campground in front of the fire. So that's where it came from. We've been smoking all kinds of meat, so I figured let's try smoking coffee beans. I don't know. So let's turn the camera off me onto the oven and dig a little bit deeper into that idea. All right, here we have my oven. Yes, I did make sure it's nice and clean on the inside before I started using it, even though it's in my garage. I'm gonna have to try and do this with the door closed because I'm trying to keep the heat in while I'm roasting for a more even roast. You'll see my tray on the top there with the beans, and on the bottom you'll see a smaller tray that actually has some apple wood wood chips in it, like you would put in your smoker. So I've got them on another sheet tray. On the bottom, I have a chunk of steel underneath the pan so that the pan is technically resting on the heating element. It's electric heating element, but just barely. I did it just putting the whole pan on the element, and I found that it got too much heat into it, smoked a little bit too much, and I didn't like that. So like I said, I've got the oven at 470, get it good and heat soaked. Handful of wood chips on the pan into the oven. Takes between 5 to 10 minutes, depending on the outside temperature and pressure and stuff to start smoking. There's not a lot of airflow going into the oven, so I check on it a couple times, crack it, get some oxygen in there, and you'll notice if you try it this way, once they start getting to that smoking point, you crack it open, some oxygen will go in there, and they'll really start to smoke. They won't catch on fire, just a nice amount of smoke going on there. I will put the beans in then, 8 ounces of beans on the pan, and I have noticed that I do have some hot spots in the oven. Makes sense, obviously. So at 7 minutes, I will take the pan out quickly, shake the pan around, and then give it a 180 turn to try and give it a more even roast. Another 3 minutes under the smoke, and then I will pull the smoke out. They start to get to the point where it's not just a nice cooking smoke. It starts to actually kind of be like campfire smoke, a more harsh smoke, which is not what we want. So I pull those out. I don't know if you guys can hear this. I don't think you're going to be able to. There's too much just kind of white background noise where I'm at. But the beans are starting to crack, and it's just a popping, kind of like loud Rice Krispies in milk is what it sounds like. And that will start getting close to 10 minutes total. 10 minutes, I will pull the wood chip pan out, and then I usually set my timer for another 5 minutes, and I'll just kind of sit here and wait for what's called second crack. The beans will pop again. It's not nearly as loud. That's the point where you're getting into your more, quote, darker roasts, and I think I just hit 10 minutes, so let me pull those chips out. All right, my wood chips are out. I am gonna crack this open for the sake of science. That's what the beans look like after about 10 minutes. What one might consider looking golden brown and delicious, I guess. And we will give it another, it's between 4 and 5 minutes. I know that a lot of people do this as it's an exact science, but that's just not how I do it. People are taking notes on how long they're doing it, how much time into the second crack before they're taking them out. But the thing that kind of gets me is these beans are all approximately the same size, but they're not the same size. And no matter what home contraption you're using to cook, the temperature is probably going to be inconsistent. Your outside temperature is going to be inconsistent. The humidity is going to be inconsistent. Barometric pressure, all of the things that, like, we know if you bake affect baking, seem to affect how these beans roast as well. The reason I've only used a couple different kinds of beans so far is that I wanted that to be kind of my one consistencies as I roasted, yet have a couple two different kinds so that I could compare taste other than just roasting. We're getting into the second crack here. It's been about 12.5 minutes, so I will give those a little bit longer, and I just watch them basically. I pull them out right when some of them are starting to have the oily finish, which is getting into your really dark roast, which personally I like, but as an everyday coffee, boy, they're really getting into the second crack now. I don't know if you guys can tell, but there's a lot of smoke in here. And yes, a lot of the smoke obviously is from my wood chips, but the beans do smoke a lot by themselves. You can see the smoke kind of venting out of here, and you can see I've got, now part of that is because I'm at a high temp. Part of it is because there's smoke coming out that is obviously wood smoke, but the beans of course, like I said earlier, do give off, it's an oily smoke. It's like a sticky, caramelized, oily smoke that sticks to things, and the smell stays. So I would really not recommend doing this in your house. Maybe more than like a 1 8-ounce batch a month, obviously without the wood chips. All right, here is the finished beans. I just took them out. It's a little overcast outside with the garage door open, but it's smoky, but it's making the light awful. I did take these a little bit further than I would have liked. You know, I am filming a video, so it makes things a little bit more complicated. This batch by itself, if I was just going to keep it and not mix it in with the other beans that I'm roasting today, would have been a nice, super dark roast batch for myself. And maybe I will just keep these separate to do kind of a taste test. But you can see how they're starting to just get a little, let's see, little oily there. That's what I'm looking for personally. I think that is kind of where you just get into a nice, bold, dark roast, full flavor cup of coffee, if you will. All right, we're going a little bit longer than I intended. Long-time viewers of the channel, I'm sure, are not shocked by that. But let's see, a couple quick notes. The smoking of the beans. Honestly, it kind of just started out as, it was a joke, kind of a gimmick. Why don't we give it a shot? I was with one of my buddies one night. I had some beans that I had already roasted, but they weren't like awesomely roasted, and they weren't quite as dark as I would have liked. We had just smoked some meat in his smoker, so we threw the beans in, you know, for, I don't know, 5 or 10 minutes. And then we had some later. I don't know if it was that night or whatever. They definitely tasted different, but we couldn't tell if it tasted different because it had been in a smoker full of like seasoned meat, smoked stuff, or if it was actually like the smoked flavor. Hence the smoking in the oven that has never smoked meat, and it's a very clean environment. It definitely adds another layer of flavor. It doesn't taste like how smoke smells, or like you get campfire smoke in your mouth or you inhale it or whatever. It does not taste like that. It doesn't taste like the sensation you get when you smoke meat in a smoker. Like usually that gives you a little bit sweeter flavor. It's not that. it's just, I really don't know how to describe it. It's just like another layer of coffeeness. I don't know. Maybe any of my friends out there who have had my coffee want to comment below kind of your take on it. We are definitely a fan of the smoked. Mrs. HSW came up with the name Campfire Coffee. So I've kind of been rolling that, and my motto has been just good coffee, quote, just good coffee. So there's that. If you have any questions or comments, again, like I said, I'm not a professional. Be kind down below. If you have questions, I'll be more than happy to try and help you. Email me, hawkeyeskunkworks@gmail.com if you want to have some in-depth, discussion or whatever. So there's that. Follow me along on the channel. Like I said, usually it's 4x4s. This week we're doing coffee. Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe. Normal videos are on Sundays. And of course Instagram, Facebook down below. And I will try to remember to link the pans that I've been using and the coffee beans that I've been using. If you have recommendations for raw coffee beans that you have personally used, please, that I want to see down in the comments for sure. So until the next video drops, thank you for watching. Take care. Goodbye.